I never imagined my humble dress made of trash bags would capture the eye of a millionaire CEO. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started like any other bleak Tuesday. The sky was a heavy gray, mirroring the weight on my heart. I wasn't merely struggling with sewing scraps. I was drowning in debt, with overdue bills piling on my kitchen table like a mountain waiting to consume me. My fingers trembled as I tugged at the seams of the dress, convinced that this time, maybe, it would be my breakthrough. I remember staring into the mirror, breathing in the pungent scent of plastic as I caught a glimpse of what I had created. The dress billowed around me, its shiny black surface catching glimmers of light, an odd beauty woven from discarded materials. I giggled nervously. It was ridiculous, really. This dress was born from my desperate need to be seen in a world that often overlooked the underdog. My fingers were raw, but I loved it, the rebellion, the statement. Mom always said beauty lies in unexpected places. She fought battles I could never fully understand. Cancer took her last year. I felt that loss like a knife in my chest. Each scar on my heart reminded me of how she taught me to find light in the dark, to see possibilities where there seemed to be none. I wanted to honor her memory, to prove that even garbage could hold beauty, just like us, but the moment I walked into the shimmering ballroom, anxiety gripped my gut. The air was thick with the scent of expensive cologne, and laughter echoed off the grand walls, mingling with the click of crystal glasses. I was out of place, a rare flower growing in a garden of silk and satin. But I held my head high, promising myself I would shine. Then, I spotted him, the millionaire CEO, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to glow against the lavish decor. I felt my heart stumble. He was the kind of man people tamed their tongues around, hushed whispers trailing behind him like shadows. And there I was, in my bold trash bag creation. I felt like a moth drawn to an impossible flame. I stood frozen as he approached, his expression unreadable, yet charged with something electric. Silence fell around us. I could hear my heartbeat drum in my ears. Was he curious, or mocking? The murmurs of a crowd grew, each whisper a tightening coil around my chest. What on earth would he say? Would he laugh? I braced myself for impact. Interesting choice, he breathed, eyes raking over me, his voice smooth as silk. I had no response, no clever quip. My throat went dry. The room shifted, my dress felt like it was shrinking, suffocating me in a whirlwind of anxiety. But then, I noticed something in his gaze beyond curiosity. Was it admiration? I blinked, trying to decipher the spark that danced between us, only to be interrupted by a rude scoff from someone behind me. The laughter erupted around us, taunting me, like waves crashing against a fragile shore. I turned, heat washing over me, cringing at the rising tide of shame. Who does she think she is? Someone whispered. My heart sank, anticipatory tears prickling my eyes. Wait. His voice cut through the noise. My world slowed. He stepped closer. The crowd hushed, curiosity now reversed. I held my breath. Tell me about your dress, he insisted, leaning in, his eyes boring into mine, a curiosity that set my heart racing and my palms sweating. The atmosphere shifted, and I realized in that moment, behind the plastic, there was so much potential, but just as hope began to kindle, another voice broke through the air. Are you serious? A smirk plastered across a face I recognized. My knees quaked. This could go either way. Would he stand by me? Or run away, horrified? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The laughter swelled, a tide of mockery crashing against my fragile resolve. I felt myself wobbling on the edge of embarrassment, teetering between hope and despair. Just moments ago, there had been light. His interest had flickered like fireflies trapped in a jar. But now the darkness crept in, threatening to suffocate the spark. The CEO, his name I didn't even know, turned his head slowly towards the source of the mockery, his expression hardened, as if shielding me from the cruelty that suddenly surrounded us. "What do you mean by that?" His voice, low and steadfast, managed to cut through the chill wrapping around my heart. That I braced myself for another wave of ridicule, yet the crowd softened its jeers, sensing the shift. There was a tremor of something new in the air, perhaps intrigue or even respect. I could see it in his eyes. He was not just a man of wealth and power, but someone who had taken a moment to truly see me. Just me. In that brief pause, everything felt suspended, the world around us fading. I swallowed hard, feeling the weight of all my insecurities welling up. "It's a statement," I managed to say, my voice trembling yet resolute. "Beauty can come from the most unexpected places." He held my gaze, a flicker of appreciation dancing in his eyes. "It's bold," he replied, his words coating me in warmth. I could feel the tension slightly dissipate as pushback from the crowd seemed to diminish, landing instead on my newfound savior. Before I could breathe a sigh of relief, the mocker pressed further. "Bold? Or just desperate?" The laughter returned, a sneering wave crashing back into my moment of courage. My heart sank, the wounding phrase slicing through the rare connection I had begun to feel. My legs threatened to betray me, the embarrassment flooding through my veins. "He noticed. Who defined beauty for you?" he asked, narrowing his gaze at the heckler, a warrior defending a treasure. "Plastics can't hide poverty. This loser is trying to make a statement with trash." The crowd burst into renewed laughter, buoyed by cruel camaraderie. I felt every jibe like a punch, memories of my mother flickering before my eyes, the life lessons that shoved me to try, despite the fear of failure. "People matter," I murmured almost to myself, not entirely grasping my own words. "Even if they don't have everything figured out. And what's ridiculous to one, is hope for another." The CEO turned back to me, a curious smile breaking through the tension. "And what do you hope for?" he asked, genuinely sincere, as though I were whispering secrets into the night. This softening in his voice shattered my doubt. The connection sparked something already stirring inside me, a forgotten dream, but just as I gathered the courage to respond, a shadow crept in. My landlord's voice boomed, followed by a familiar distraught figure clambering into the ballroom. "Sophia!" he called out, eyes wide with panic. "We need to talk now." The tension in the room leapt up again, all eyes shifting toward me, both intrigued and bewildered. My heart raced. Memories of overdue bills clawed at my mind, my stomach knotted as reality dove back into my life. "What is it?" I managed to croak, the warmth of earlier moments swiftly being swallowed by an icy grip. He stepped closer, desperation etched across his face. "It's your rent. You were supposed to pay 2 weeks ago. I'm giving you one last chance before it gets serious." The world around me blurred, the once welcoming ballroom now an echo chamber of muted whispers and stares. My heart betrayed me, thudding loudly in its desire to flee, to shake off the oppressive weight of my financial reality. I felt the CEO's presence dissipate into the noise, as shelves of expectations I had barely begun to build crumbled down to dust. "Please," I whispered, to both the landlord and to the universe. "I just need a little more time." The room remained eerily still, like a held breath, every eye was somewhere between judgment and concern. My pulse raced with uncertainty as the CEO took a step closer before hesitating. He glanced down at the impeccably polished floor, his mind elsewhere, the compassion in his gaze replaced by something unreadable. "Maybe you should leave too," the landlord urged, eyeing the CEO with trepidation, posturing like he held all the power while my hopes hung in delicate balance. The atmosphere was suffocating, yet I didn't want to run. I could feel my strength ebbing, but something inside me stirred, an echo of my mother tugging at my heartstrings, pushing me to stand tall. I needed hope, any flicker of it as I stared into the depths of the CEO's eyes, I was met with a new challenge, not just the gallery of onlookers but the weight of my reality colliding with the chance I had just grasped. Hope was fragile, beauty was complex, and perhaps finding it required risking everything once more, and just then, he took a deep breath, meeting my gaze with fierce clarity. "Let me help." His voice was laced with determination, a lifeline thrown into the tumultuous sea of my despair, yet one that left me all the more terrified. Could I accept this offer? Would it come with strings, his expectations, his demands? I could only wonder, a moment of revelation hanging in the balance, teetering between the crashing pressures of my past and the hopeful possibilities of the future. The moment hung heavy in the air, fraught with unspoken intention and the unsteady tremor of hope. I clung to the CEO's piercing gaze, wrestling with my conflicting emotions. His proposition flickered in front of me like a flame begging to be ignited, an invitation that felt both exquisite and terrifying. "Let me help." His voice echoed, steady yet tender. For a heartbeat, the tumult of the ballroom faded. It was just the two of us, a surge of connection flowing between us, stronger than the ridicule and judgment that surrounded us, but that connection came shackled to a heaviness I was not prepared to bear. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. "What kind of help are we talking about?" The corner of his mouth twitched into a faint smile, but the light wasn't enough to pierce my uncertainty. The landlord's impatient tapping of his foot broke the moment like cracking glass, drawing our attention back to the harsh reality of the room. "Listen, Sophia," my landlord interjected, his irritation mounting. "You can't just barter for time. People like him don't throw money around willy-nilly. It's time to face facts. You owe rent. And there are consequences." A tremor of panic coursed through me, the threat in his voice loomed like storm clouds overhead. "I know," I replied, my heart pounding against my ribcage. "But I just need a bit of space to figure things out." "Space that costs money," he replied flatly, his condescending tone slicing through the moment of levity I had begun to nurture. The laughter that had once surrounded me now felt like chains. "Enough." The CEO's voice sliced through the noise again, firmer this time, as if re-establishing control. He took a step closer to my landlord, his posture filled with an authority that grounded me. "I'll take care of Sophia's rent," he stated, his words pinning the room in a stunned silence. "What?" A surge of gratitude and disbelief flooded me, clashing in an internal tempest. "You can't," I said, my voice rising in panic. "You don't know me. I can't accept help unconditionally." "Why?" "Because you think people only give when they want something in return." He stepped forward, a flash of frustration piercing the air between us. "That's not true, Sophia. This doesn't have to be a transaction. I want to help." My heart sank deeper, the weight of what felt like a lifeline suddenly became a noose. I had spent so long priding myself on independence, pulling myself up by my bootstraps against the tides of adversity. And here he was, ready to pull me from the water, yet I felt the tendrils of despair clenching my throat. "What do you want in return?" I whispered. He didn't answer immediately, his eyes reflective as he guarded his thoughts. "Nothing, really," he finally said, softening his tone. "But perhaps an opportunity to talk, to explore ideas that matter to you. To understand what beauty means to you beyond the surface." The offer was tempting, and yet the dim remnants of self-doubt rose ominously. I had presents of gold handing down in front of me, yet my heart felt burdened with the weight of rejection that lay beneath that shimmering surface. "But what if I can't deliver?" I asked, unable to suppress my insecurities. The room remained still, the distant music from the gala now a haunting backdrop to my internal turmoil. The landlord's frustrated fidgeting loomed large, yet all I could hear was my heart thundering, echoing my doubt. "I'll take that chance," he finally replied, his conviction reverberating inside me. It was bold, almost reckless, but it ignited something inside me, a desire to prove him right. Maybe, just maybe, there was a path forward I hadn't yet considered, yet before I could conjure a response, footsteps approached us, heavy, purposeful. A woman with a sharp gaze edged closer, her tailored suit and imposing presence demanding attention. "We need to talk." "Now," she interrupted, her voice commanding and unyielding. The CEO glanced at her, a noticeable tension flooding his demeanor. "Not now, Marissa," he said, annoyance creeping into his tone, but she pressed on. "You need to realize. That promise can't go unchallenged. What you're suggesting could have larger ramifications, especially coming from you." I felt weighted down once again, the initial flicker of hope dimming beneath a blanket of uncertainty. Ramifications? My heart lurched at the thought. Was I stepping into something beyond my comprehension? What kind of mess had I inadvertently walked into, tangled in responsibilities I hadn't signed up for? "Perhaps I'll take my leave then," my landlord sneered, pivoting sharply on heel. "Just know you'll have to face the music sooner or later, Sophia." His words followed me as he stormed out of the ballroom, leaving a silence draped across our gathering. The CEO's eyes darted back to me, and I saw something shattered beneath his calculated exterior, equal parts frustration and fear. "Sophia," but Marissa interrupted. "Let us focus on what matters. You have a choice, a very public one, and it's not just about you this time. You have to be cautious." A choice. The air seemed charged with electric uncertainty, possibilities twisting and turning in uncharted directions. Just outside the doors, my landlord's scornful remarks clung to the remnants of dignity I struggled to retain, threatening to pull my new reality apart. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath me, a tidal wave of mounting pressure encompassing the situation. The offer on the table felt precarious, hope and fear danced before me in a waltz that left my heart torn. And with a deep breath, I stepped forward, feeling the iron grip of doubt threaten to swallow me whole. "I need time to think," I declared, a shiver dancing along my spine, knowing I was standing at a precipice between chance and consequence, and I feared where I would land. As I turned away, the weight of my choices pressing down, my heart trembled with uncertainty. The remnants of connection I had felt a moment ago flickered in the distance, just barely out of reach, despite the compelling reality of all that lay ahead. The days that followed felt like a haze, where time dripped slowly like molasses. Each moment was punctuated by the uncertainty of what lay ahead, a spectrum of possibilities swirling around me like confetti in a storm. The promise of the CEO's help weighed heavily on my conscience, as if it glimmered with both a radiant sign of hope and a dark reminder of vulnerability that I moved through my routine with the ghost of that night still clinging to me. The vibrant city outside my window buzzed with life, yet I felt suspended in a liminal space caught between my worn reality and the alluring world he offered. My work at the gallery seemed more tedious than before, the canvases and sculptures beneath my fingertips telling stories I could no longer decipher. It felt like each piece mocked me with its beauty, reminding me that I felt like an imposter among the art. "Hey, you okay?" Lisa, my coworker, leaned against my desk, concern etching her features. "You've been distant." I smiled weakly, not wanting to drag her into my tempest. "I just need to sort some things out, that's all." But the truth lay deeper, a sprawling cavern of anxiety and doubt. I thought of the CEO, his offer still echoing in my mind. It wasn't just his willingness to pay rent that haunted me, it was the implication behind it, a constellation of promises, expectations, and what it meant for my life if I said yes. The fear of failure loomed like a shadow. I clenched my fists, biting back my emotions. Yet as the days gave way to nights, something unexpected unfolded. A slip of hope, wrapped in kindness, arrived in the form of an unexpected email. It was from a local art organization, inviting me to showcase my own work at a community exhibit. My heart raced as I read through the details, a chance to express myself without judgment, to translate my worries into art. It was a small opportunity, yet it unraveled something within me, reminiscent of the spark I had felt when I first considered what beauty meant. I quickly replied, pouring my heart into a few lines of excitement and intent. "Finally, something to look forward to," I murmured, a smile tugging at my lips. Just as I re-entered my world of creation, trying to awaken long-suppressed dreams, a message chimed in that it was from the CEO. A simple line, sent late at night, hoping you're well. Would love to chat. My heart raced. It appeared he'd been thinking of me, too. Despite the thrumming adrenaline, I hesitated. His powerful aura was a magnet that pulled me into unknown territories, stirring my desires and fears all at once. A reminder that where I stood was precarious, but could I deny this chance to connect over shared aspirations? I took a breath, each inhalation mingling with a pang of excitement and the weight of my hesitation. After a few minutes, I replied, agreeing to meet at a local cafe. The morning arrived with a crispness in the air that stung my cheeks as I rushed to the cafe, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. What would I say? Would I confess my aspirations or cower before the reality of my financial burdens? I reached the entrance, pushing through the heavy door, and found him already seated, the warm glow of the cafe casting golden light across his features. "Hi," I said softly, my heart clamoring for attention beneath my chest. "Hi," he replied, meeting my gaze with an intensity that made the air sizzle. "I've missed our conversation." I nodded, settling into the chair across from him. "I've been wrapped up in my own head," I admitted. "Trying to forge a path forward." He watched me, his expression inscrutable, yet there was warmth radiating beneath his scrutiny. "I want to hear what that looks like for you, Sophia. I know you have passion and you deserve to express it, without fear." Passion. The word rippled through me, wrestling against my doubt like a flag unfurling in a storm. Before I could corral my thoughts, I found myself speaking about the upcoming exhibit, my words spilling forth like a pent-up river. "It's a chance to create something meaningful, to share my perspective," I said, and the ember of hope rekindled within me. "Then let me help you." His eyes radiated sincerity, and his presence enveloped me in a wave of comfort. "Let us make this work for you." Yet just as I began to imagine the possibilities, a silence draped over us, thick and weighty. I sensed hesitation lurking in the shadows, reminding me of this precarious dance we were partaking in. "What does that mean, precisely?" I asked, a sudden jolt of anxiety creeping in. The corner of his mouth lifted, but the warmth in his eyes began to flicker. "I can set up connections. Resources. But I want you to lead. This is your vision, your voice." A spark of excitement ignited within, mixing with an underlying fear. Trust. Did I possess the courage to trust? Before I could respond to this enticing proposal, my phone buzzed in my pocket, jarring the moment. I fished it out, glancing at the incoming message. Emergency alert. Eviction notice. My stomach lurched, the brightness of the cafe dimming against the scrutiny of reality crushing down again. My heart thudded against my ribcage, fluttering wildly in a panic-stricken dance. I need to go." My voice tremored as I barely registered the CEO's confused expression. "Wait, Sophia, what is happening?" He pressed, but my breath quickened as I stumbled from my seat, tearing myself away from this unexpected light that now felt so far out of reach. Outside, the world seemed an unyielding torrent. The colors dulled, the cafe behind me morphed into a dream I could barely grasp. My heart raced as I faced the reality closing in, and the uncertainty twisted my insides with a sharp pang. I had sought clarity, but now the weight of choices loomed over me, threatening to pull me back into despair. I had come so close to stepping into new realms of possibility only to be thrust back into what felt like an inescapable darkness, and as I hustled down the street, navigating through the barrage of noise and hurried conversations, a voice echoed in the back of my mind. Was this really where my story would end, or was there a thread waiting to be pulled, that could weave together my future in a new, unexpected pattern? I didn't know, but with every step I took, I felt the fabric of my reality begin to tear, and I braced myself for what awaited around the corner. The city pulsated around me as I turned a corner, my breath hitching. Each heartbeat resonated with the daunting reality of the eviction notice I had just received. I needed a plan. The cafe receded in my thoughts like a mirage fading under the relentless sun, leaving only the stifling weight of my decisions pressing down on me. That I ducked into a nearby park, seeking solace under the thick branches of an old oak. The greenery felt alive, vibrant, yet a stark contrast to the swirling chaos within me. I sank onto a weathered bench, rubbing my hands together as if I could summon warmth into the chill of despair that crept into my bones. Messages from friends and family flickered through my mind, whispers of reassurance and support, but I felt utterly alone. Was I truly capable of taking the leap before me? I thought of my art, the cathartic process that once poured color onto my canvas and life into my spirit. I had clung to it like a lifebuoy, yet here I was, on the brink of losing not just my home but everything I had worked for. "Excuse me," a soft voice broke through my reverie. I lifted my gaze, surprised to find an elderly woman standing before me, her silver hair catching the sun like strands of silk. "I couldn't help but notice you seem troubled. Is everything all right?" Her gentle demeanor stirred something within me, an unexpected kindness in this unforgiving world. I hesitated, contemplating the weight of my truth against the fragility of this moment. I faltered, searching for words that wouldn't shatter the calm of her spirit. "I just received an eviction notice." "Oh, dear," she murmured, empathy washing over her features. No one should have to face that alone. For a heartbeat, I was surprised by how her simple acknowledgement felt like a balm on my soul. "What do you do for a living?" "I'm an artist," I replied, the words spilling from my lips as I admired the way they hung in the air. "But I've been struggling to find my place." Her face brightened, and she took a seat beside me. "Art is such a profound expression of our innermost feelings. Do you think it's possible to channel this adversity into something creative?" I contemplated her question, the flickering hope of my upcoming exhibit intertwining with my present turmoil. "I want to, but I don't know where to begin." She smiled knowingly, as if she could sense the turbulence beneath my uncertainty. "Sometimes, the best art comes from the rawest pain. Maybe this is an invitation to explore that deeper part of your creativity. What if you create something that reflects your journey?" Her words ignited a spark, illuminating the dark corners of my mind. What if I transformed my struggles into something profound, something that could resonate with others? "I could do that," I murmured, allowing a flicker of possibility into my thoughts. The woman clasped her hands in her lap, a twinkle of mischief in her eyes. "I believe you can. And if you need help, I'd be more than happy to connect you with people who might assist you, art dealers, collectors, or anyone willing to lend a hand." "Really?" I couldn't help the skepticism bubbling in my chest. Why would a stranger offer such kindness? But the sincerity in her gaze quelled my doubts. That would mean everything. "Then it's settled," she declared, her smile radiating warmth. "Let us exchange numbers. You never know what will come of it. I believe great things are waiting for you, my dear." As I fumbled with my phone, a flood of gratitude surged within me. In the face of crushing challenges, this was an unexpected beacon of hope. Perhaps creating through my pain could lead to something beautiful, something that captured both my struggle and my resilience. However, the sweetness of this newfound motivation was abruptly tethered back to reality as my phone buzzed in my pocket again. My heart sank when I recognized the name on the screen: my landlord. Without thinking, I answered. "Hello. You need to pay your dues, Sophia." His voice was cool and unyielding. "You're behind, and I can't keep holding off any longer." "Please, I'm working on it," I stammered. Fresh embarrassment ripping through me. "I just need a little more time." "Time is not on your side," he replied flatly. "You have until the end of the month. Make arrangements or else I'm left with no choice." The call ended, and the remnants of hope I had clung to rapidly unraveled, leaving me bare against the onslaught of despair. I blinked back, tears, a whirlwind of emotions suffocating me. I was teetering on the edge of fear, desperation clawing at my throat. As the elderly lady silently observed me, I realized that this exasperating, trembling moment was a crucial junction. Would I allow the weight of my circumstances to bear me down completely, or could I rise from these ashes, even in solitude? "Thank you," I whispered to the woman beside me, the weight of her kindness buoying me up. "You've given me something to think about. Remember, my dear, every shadow falls upon the art we create." You have the power to color it how you wish. As we exchanged numbers, a newfound fire sparked within me, mingling with the sorrow and uncertainty. I clutched her wisdom like a lifeline, knowing that I wasn't alone even in my darkest moments. But just as I began to feel the echoes of potential reverberating through my soul, another message pinged through my phone. I glanced down, and my heart dropped as my pulse quickened. It was from the CEO. I just got an unexpected offer that could change everything for you. Was this my salvation? Or just another gilded cage disguised as hope? With trembling fingers, I typed back, "What kind of offer?" My breath caught, each second stretching into eternity as I awaited his reply. Silver linings often come wrapped in clouds, and I braced myself for whatever storm may follow. The sunlight trickled through the leaves of the old oak as I sat numbly on the bench, my heart thrumming erratically. The reality of the eviction notice still loomed heavy in the background of my mind. But now, the glimmering promise wrapped in the CEO's text blurred my focus further. My pulse raced, a mix of anxiety and excitement coiling tightly within me. There was an undeniable thrill to uncertainty, but it was conflicting, like a pendulum swinging between hope and despair that I rubbed my eyes, trying to clear my thoughts as my phone vibrated insistently in my hand. The old woman beside me peered over with interest as I stilled myself, willing the anticipated message from the CEO to materialize. But deep inside, a familiar skepticism crept in, warning me not to chase illusions. I had seen enough empty promises to know that potential could quickly dissolve into bitterness. A vibration jolted me from my thoughts. The message appeared on my screen again, shimmering bright against the backdrop of my turmoil: "Meet me tomorrow. There's a chance I can help you present your work to some influential people. I need to discuss terms." The prospect sent waves of hope rushing through me. It was a chance, a tenuous thread that could lead to salvation. Yet as quickly as it surged, the reality of my situation pressed down. The eviction was looming, and I couldn't let myself be swept away. Still, the idea of being recognized for my art, embraced by collectors and enthusiasts alike, ignited a spark I hadn't felt in years. "Are you all right, dear?" the elderly woman whispered, her hand brushing against my arm. The warmth of her touch surged through the anxiety that knotted in my chest. I just received a message that could change everything," I replied, my voice trembling with uncertainty. Her unwavering gaze met mine, and I felt a grounding force and unspoken encouragement radiating from her presence. "It's a step forward, then," she said softly, her smile an anchor in a stormy sea. "What will you do?" "I don't know," I admitted, my heart heavy with doubt. What if this is just a cruel joke? I can't afford to dream too big, can I? What happens if in the end, I fail? Ah, but my love, failure is the breeding ground for true success. You cannot let your fear of falling keep you from trying to fly. Her words lingered in the air, and I held on to them, letting them wrap around my heart like a warm embrace. With a determined nod, I exchanged one last look with the woman, a silent understanding passing between us as she gathered her belongings. "I'll be rooting for you, Sophia. Remember, the art you create isn't just for others, it's also for you. Treasure it as you would a part of your spirit." "Thank you." The sincerity of my voice surprised even me. "For everything." After she left, the park felt eerily quiet and still. I sat alone, uncertain about my next steps, but it was her words that haunted me. They ignited a small flicker of hope deep within. I thought about my upcoming exhibit and the artwork I had poured my heart into. What if I could seize this opportunity to breathe life back into my art, embracing both my struggles and the possibilities lying ahead? The evening sky painted orange and red, an ever-fading rainbow reminding me of the resilience found in beauty. I pulled out my sketchbook, elusive fragments of inspiration swirling in my thoughts like autumn leaves. Drawing had always been my therapy, and the fresh air buoyed my spirit. Taking a breath, I began to sketch, lines unfurling and morphing into shapes that spoke of both hardship and hope. But as the sun dipped below the skyline, spilling darkness across the park, a chill settled around me, accompanied by an unsettling anxiety. What if all my efforts tomorrow would lead to another letdown, another reminder of my fragility. Suddenly, my phone buzzed again, pulling me away from my thoughts. My heart sank, recognizing the name immediately: my landlord. The previously buoyant energy quickly drained from the air, replaced by dread. I answered cautiously, my stomach nodding with unease. "Sophia, I need you to understand. I'm not in a position to be lenient anymore," he barked. "You have until the end of the month. I truly don't want to see you homeless, but I need to get paid." "I understand," I replied, fighting back tears. "I'm doing my best." The weight of desperation pressed against my chest. "You don't have a best left to give. Take my advice: find a way to pay what you owe, and if you can't, no one will pick up the pieces for you." The call ended abruptly, and I stood there in disbelief, feeling utterly exposed. Each breath seemed painfully labored, and doubt clawed at my self-worth. Can I truly forge the future I dream of? In that moment of raw emotion, I drew a deep breath and returned to my sketches, pouring all my frustration and hopelessness into them. Perhaps what I created would speak for me when I couldn't find the words, yet when I finally returned home, the familiar walls felt oppressive. The reality of my situation sunk into my bones. Tomorrow held promise, but the eviction would come, uninvited and unforgiving. I uncovered the scribbled notes tucked away in my sketchbook: ideas for my art, messages from friends, all remnants of the hope I yearned to hold on to. There was a seemingly endless tumult, and I gripped the pages, praying for courage, but suddenly, just as I folded away the notes, a notification lit up my phone once more. My heart raced. It was the CEO again. "You need to be prepared for anything tomorrow. It won't be easy," he cautioned. That I stared at the message, confusion swirling within. What did he mean by that? Did he know something I didn't? Anxiety etched deeper lines across my forehead as I realized that these potential life-altering choices carried a weight heavier than I ever anticipated. With hope and dread coiling together in my heart, I slowly closed my sketchbook. The pang of uncertainty took root, and I felt the storm brewing within me, an impending confrontation with my fate waiting just out of reach. Tomorrow would either illuminate my path forward or darken it with despair. And there, on the precipice of an unknown journey, I found myself teetering, heart pounding, poised between the possibilities of hope and the threat of reality. With a restless night behind me, I woke up to the muted light filtering through the kitchen window. The familiar scent of coffee hung in the air, a modest comfort amidst the chaos of my thoughts. As I sunk into a chair, my uneaten toast lay untouched, a stark reminder of the heaviness pressing on my heart. Today wasn't just another day. It was the day that could alter the fabric of my existence. That I reached for my sketchbook, its worn pages still cradling my aspirations, each sketch a whisper of what could be. The sunlight caught the edges of one particularly emotional piece, a portrayal of a young woman standing defiantly before an unyielding storm. The story of my life. I traced the outline with my finger, both absorbing the energy of my creation and feeling the weight of its truth. Moments later, a throbbing in my heart pulled me from my reverie. I reminded myself of the meeting ahead, an opportunity cloaked in uncertainty. As I checked my phone, the news from the CEO loomed over me like a specter, a reminder that I was not just stepping into a room full of potential, I was also stepping into a world of unwritten expectations. That in a fleeting moment of clarity, I took a deep breath and resolved to shed my apprehension. Whatever happened today, I put my soul into it. It was my art, after all. I glanced at my reflection, a mixture of resolve and vulnerability mirrored back at me. Beauty, I realized belatedly, does not always dwell in perfection. It thrives in the ability to face the imperfections with courage. As I prepared for the meeting, I donned the dress I crafted from discarded trash bags, an emblem of my dedication and creativity. It shimmered with a strange allure, a testament to finding beauty in the broken. Yet, the weight of judgment clung to my heart. Would they understand the message behind it? With each step toward the gallery, anticipation twisted in my gut. Crowds buzzed with electric energy around me, but my focus narrowed to the task at hand. Arriving at the designated spot, I surveyed the elegant space filled with potentially discerning eyes. Everyone looked poised, polished, while I stood as a tentative bud about to bloom or wither. Drinks are over there, an assistant gestured, and I nodded absently. Did anyone see me? Was it a bad idea to be here, so exposed and raw? With a shaky breath, I gripped my sketchbook tightly and forced myself to engage, smiling at the art displayed around me, finding solace in the familiar narratives portrayed. Suddenly, I spotted him. The CEO's stature filled the room with an unspoken power, capturing both reverence and apprehension among attendees. He was speaking with a group, his laughter resonating like music amidst the chatter. As he turned toward me, our eyes locked for a fleeting moment, and in that instant, a spark ignited. Would he see my heart through the threads of tattered plastic? Moments later, he approached, a curious glint in his eye. "I'm glad you found the courage to come," he said, his voice soothing yet firm. "Are you ready for the conversation we need to have?" I hesitated, feeling as though my breath had slipped into the ether. "I hope so," I whispered, vulnerability creeping into my resolve. "But first, you should see my work. It reflects everything I'm feeling." With a nod of understanding, he took my sketchbook as if it were fragile glass. My fingers tingled with anticipation and dread as he flipped through the pages, his expression inscrutable. I could feel my pulse quicken, echoing the fear of rejection or the surprising possibility of acceptance. Just as he reached the final page, his gaze sharpened, a flicker of interest igniting. "There's so much raw emotion here," he remarked, his voice threaded with respect. "You have a gift, Sophia. But the world doesn't merely want art, they want stories." "Then let me tell mine," I replied, emboldened by his kindness. "My art is a reflection of my struggle, my life. It's made from the things most people overlook. I believe even trash has beauty, it just needs someone to see it." He smiled, a hint of admiration crossing his features. As he closed the sketchbook. "I think you could have a substantial impact, possibly change lives through your vision. Let us see where this journey takes us." Hope blossomed within me, a fragile bloom amid a field of uncertainty. But just as I began to feel the warmth of possibility cascading through me, chaos erupted. The rear door of the gallery swung open, and a figure rushed in, a man disheveled and out of breath. Heads turned, and whispers filled the room. "Sophia!" he called out, scanning the crowd with frantic eyes. My heart dropped as recognition washed over me. It was Jack, my younger brother, his face a mask of urgency. He hardly ever came to events like this, and seeing him now sent tremors of concern coursing through me. "What's wrong?" I asked, rushing forward, anxiety tightening around my throat. He grabbed my shoulders, his eyes wild. "It's Mom. You have to come home now. There's been an accident." In that instant, the world around me blurred, the vibrant colors of hope and possibility dissolving into an abyssal darkness. The gallery faded away as I grappled with the impending reality, every ounce of warmth and promise extinguished by a single, searing truth. I was faced with a choice that would change everything, the path of my dreams or the unyielding tug of family loyalty amidst chaos. The world spun around me, and I felt like I was drowning in a tidal wave of emotions. Jack's hands tightened on my shoulders, grounding me momentarily in a reality far removed from the one I had just begun to embrace in the gallery. It wasn't just the shock of his words, it was the understanding that I had somehow been brushed against the edge of a brighter future, only to be yanked back down into the depths of my past. "Can't it wait?" I pleaded, searching Jack's eyes for any trace of hope that it was just a misunderstanding, that maybe Mom was merely unwell. But the sheer panic reflected back at me told me all I needed to know. "No. Please, Sophia, you have to come now." Desperation laced his voice, and it pierced me more painfully than any accusation or judgment I faced earlier that evening. I wouldn't have come if it wasn't serious. My breath hitched as I looked toward the CEO, whose presence loomed large, a figure of opportunity that felt impossibly out of reach now. He was still there, watching us, a slight frown creasing his features as if he understood the turmoil ripping through me. But there was no room for hesitation, no time for goodbyes. I could feel the warmth of possibility receding like the tide, leaving behind only the stark weight of familial duty. Okay, I'm coming, I said, my voice trembling but resolute. Without another word, I turned on my heel, heart racing as I left behind the neon ceaseless chatter of the gallery. Each step away from the art I had created felt like a betrayal, yet the grounding reality of my brother's presence reminded me of who I truly was. I was not just an artist, I was a daughter, a sister, part of a mosaic that had once held steady in the turbulent waves of life that we rushed to the parking lot, and it wasn't until I was locked in the car with Jack, speeding away from the bright lights into the darkness beyond, that the reality began to settle in with crushing weight. What happened? I finally whispered, the words barely leaving my lips as if fear would alter the truth. It was an accident at the store, he explained, his voice shaky. She slipped and hit her head. She's in the hospital now. The doctors are saying that they're not sure how serious it is. Every word he spoke turned my gut into a knot. My hands clenched into fists as I tried to breathe through the suffocating anxiety. What if I had been too far gone, too lost in my own aspirations to see the island of support my family needed? I had always felt that my art was my life's calling, but now it felt like a mere distraction from the core of my reality. I should have been there, I murmured, guilt washing over me like a relentless tide. I should have treated her with the importance she deserves. Jack turned to me, his face softening. You're not responsible for everything, Sophia. We all have our paths. What you're doing is important, but family comes first. Mom needs you now more than ever. The warmth of his words hung in the air, a small balm for my unease, but it felt inadequate to quiet the storm raging within me. Mental images of my mother flashed across my mind, the rings of laughter she wore like a crown, her joy bubbling over when I created something new. How could I have been so absorbed in my own hopes while she was spending her days in the shadow of uncertainty? As we arrived at the hospital, dim lights flickered overhead, casting shadows that danced across the walls. The sterile air smelled of antiseptic and fear. My heart raced, and I scrambled through the familiar corridors, each step echoing the love and longing I had tucked away beneath layers of aspiration. That we found her room, and as I stepped inside, the sight of her frail form on the hospital bed struck me like lightning. Machines beeped rhythmically, an agonizing lullaby punctuating the stillness that hung over the room. She looked so vulnerable lying there, and I felt a strange disconnect, as if she were merely a photograph, a far-off echo of the woman I knew. Mom, I whispered, choking back emotion as I approached her side, feeling a pang of regret for every second I had chosen ambition over family. Tears pooled in my eyes, and for a brief moment, I felt like I was back in my childhood, the weight of the world lifting just enough for her love to surround me. Then I noticed a figure at the foot of the bed, a nurse, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this heartbreaking reality. She nodded at me kindly, her eyes reflecting the compassion of someone well-versed in the vulnerability of others. She is stable for now, the nurse assured me, but we'll need to keep her under observation. I don't understand, I said, blinking rapidly to clear my vision. When can I see her? Just give her some time. It's hard on her body, she said softly. Sometimes it's in these moments that we realize what truly matters. The words hung heavily as I clutched my mother's hand, drawing strength from the still warmth I found there. I didn't know how long I would stay, but I certainly knew I couldn't return to that bright future I had momentarily grasped. Something within me shifted, a dawning realization that art could wait, but moments like these were fleeting and irreplaceable. As I looked up, I caught Jack's gaze, his presence a reminder that I didn't have to face this alone. I felt the stirrings of hope amidst sorrow, a flicker of understanding that we might still weather the storm together. But in that fragile hope, shadows lingered. The taste of uncertainty was still bitter and unshakable, the flickering possibility of loss clawing at my heart like a persistent phantom. Just then, a commotion rose from the hallway, drawing my attention. A voice, loud and unmistakable, pierced the tension. Where is she? It was the CEO's voice, resonating through the dimly lit space like a siren call. I turned my head toward the door, dread creeping back into my heart as I realized that my two worlds, the artistry I had clung to and the family I had feared losing, were now about to collide in a way I had never anticipated. The doorway of the hospital room swung open abruptly, and there he stood, Daniel Horowitz, the CEO whose attention I had craved, now a specter of my aspirations standing stark against my unraveling world. He was dressed impeccably, as always, but a certain tension radiated from him, sharper than the gaze that had scrutinized my work only hours before. "Where is she?" His voice was urgent, cutting through the muted buzz of the hospital. I could see the uncertainty behind his carefully crafted exterior. He was a man who thrived on control, and this situation had thrown him into disarray. That I locked eyes with Jack, and the look we shared spoke volumes. The moment felt surreal, as if the universe had conspired to intertwine my worlds in the most chaotic way possible. "You shouldn't be here," I managed to say, my voice firmer than I felt. "Mom's in a fragile state right now." Daniel didn't seem to hear me, his focus was solely on my mother. Past the thin curtain separating the rooms, I could see the faint outlines of other patients, each locked in their own struggles, yet here I felt naked, exposed. "I have to speak with her," he pressed, stepping into the room. "Sir, you can't just walk in like that." The nurse objected, moving to block his path. I mirrored her effort, my own body instinctively positioning between him and my mother. In this moment, nothing mattered but her well-being. Daniel's features hardened as he registered my protective stance, but he quickly regained his composure. "I understand you're going through something, Sophia, but we need to discuss the project. This has implications beyond what you might realize," he said, his urgency edging into arrogance. "Implications?" I echoed, my anger simmering just below the surface. "Implications? My mother is lying unconscious in a hospital bed. What could possibly matter more than that right now?" The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered like a dam breaking. His expression faltered, and for just a brief moment, I saw a flicker of humanity behind his corporate mask, a glimpse of a man who may not have always been locked away in boardrooms. "It's more complicated, Sophia. We're on the brink of something that could transform everything. Your talent, the dress, the concepts, this isn't just about you anymore." "What does that mean?" I retorted, emotion bubbling to the surface. "You think that because I have talent, I owe you something? My family is my priority, Daniel. Not your agenda." Before he could answer, the nurse intervened again, her voice firm. "Sir, this isn't the time or place for this conversation. Please step outside." Daniel's jaw tightened as he glanced between me and the nurse, and in that moment of tension, an unspoken battle played out. But finally, with a deep breath, he relented, nodding curtly and stepping through the doorway, casting one last lingering look at my mother as he disappeared from view. I felt a wave of dizziness crash over me. How was I supposed to reconcile these fraying threads of my life? One moment, I had been stepping into the spotlight, and now I stood in a shadow of despair, feeling like everything I had worked for was slipping through my fingers. Jack squeezed my shoulder, his presence a solid rock in the stormy sea of emotions. "You did well," he whispered, though I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shattered between death and success. He didn't understand. "You can't let him make you feel guilty for putting family first." Tears threatened to spill over again as I focused back on my mother. I hoped she could hear the beating of my heart through the chaos around us, that she would somehow sense my fervent prayers. I needed her strength more than ever, and the fear of losing her dulled everything else, leaving only the aching uncertainty of what lay ahead. My gaze flicked towards the door, and I wondered if Daniel's presence was a harbinger of what I might give up if my relationship with him could ever blossom now that this fracture had been laid bare. But for every question that emerged, there were small flickers of light, a comforting hand from Jack, the kind nurse, and the memories of laughter shared with my mother that spoke of resilience and love. As minutes turned into hours, the hospital shifted around me, the fluorescent lights flickering like a heartbeat. The steady rhythm of machines filled the silence, blending seamlessly with the swirling thoughts in my mind as I stood in the threshold of hope and fear. Then, without warning, the door opened again. A new doctor entered, his face solemn but calm, and I felt the panic rise within me as he approached. "Thank you for your patience," he began, the weight of his tone sending a shiver through my veins. "I need to speak with you about your mother's condition." My heart stopped, and the words formed a heavy lump in my throat. I glanced at Jack, who looked just as tense, and I realized in that moment that whatever he had to say could shift the ground beneath us once more. "Please," I whispered, still holding on to my mother's hand, yearning for some good news, but deep down I was bracing for the worst. The cliffhanger was palpable. I was perched precariously between love and loss, with the abyss below ever growing deeper and darker. The doctor took a deep breath, glancing at my mother before looking back at us, steeling himself for what he needed to communicate. "Your mother suffered a significant head injury during the accident. Thankfully, she is stable now, but we are monitoring her closely for any complications. It's crucial that you both remain here. Your support will play an essential role in her recovery." The weight of his words crashed over me, a wave carrying both relief and fear. My mother was still here with us, tethered to life by the affection and shared history that bloomed between us like wildflowers. I could scarcely vouch for any other thought regardless of the scariness that blanketed my heart. We would fight through this together. "Can we see her?" Jack's voice was steady, keeping me anchored amidst the swirling uncertainty. The doctor nodded. "Only for a few minutes. We want to keep her calm." We moved as one, an unspoken bond weaving us together, navigating the sterile, fluorescent-lit hallway to her bedside. Each step was an echo of hope refracted through layers of worry. I could feel the lingering malevolence of uncertainty tightening at the edges of my thoughts as I hastily prepared myself for the moment our gazes would meet. As I stepped into the room, my heart swelled and broke simultaneously. My mother lay there, fragile and serene, her chest rising and falling with steady breaths, a rhythm that reminded me life prevailed in small mercies. "Mom," I rasped, my voice barely a whisper, as though louder words had the power to shatter the moment. "It's me, it's Sophia." Her eyes fluttered open, revealing the warmth I had longed for. She squinted, disoriented, but when recognition bloomed in her gaze, a wave of hope washed over me. "Sophia?" she murmured, her voice cracking, yet filled with an undeniable tether of love. "Yeah, Mom, it's me," I replied, feeling the edges of my resolve harden as I took her hand gently, willing every ounce of my strength into her. "You're safe now. We're here." Jack stood resolutely at my side, a calming presence amidst the chaos. Her gaze swept our faces, blending tears and gratitude with confusion. "I'm sorry. I didn't expect," she struggled, her voice breaking as she tried to omit the panic. "I thought it's okay," I interjected, my heart breaking at the thought of her distress. "You're going to be fine. We're going to get through this together like we always do." A fragile smile danced across her lips, a familiar warmth blooming as if the storms of doubt were momentarily held back by our shared perseverance. "You've grown so strong, my little artist. Keep creating." The room faded around us, the weight of her vulnerability merging seamlessly with the echoes of my dreams, the art, the connections, the possibilities, the very essence of who we were. And for the first time since the accident, I felt the rush of clarity break through the fog. I couldn't abandon my hopes, I couldn't abandon her either. She had been the canvas upon which I painted my dreams, and now I held the brush. Just then, the ensuing silence in the room shifted with the creeping sound of footsteps. I glanced toward the door again, and there he was, the CEO, Daniel. He stepped in cautiously, the air thickening with myriad unspoken tensions, realized secrets caging us beneath the fluorescent lights. Is this a bad time?" he asked, uncertainty flickering across his expression. I held my breath, the juxtaposition of our worlds clashing like thunder against a backdrop of serene hope. "It's okay," my mother said quickly, her voice tinged with a faint smile. "I'm glad you're here." The lightness of her words settled over me, a soft embrace against the weightiness pushing down. Suddenly, I felt trapped between the warmth of my family and the frigid cunning of ambition embodied within Daniel. "Mom, this is," I began, my heart drumming in a chaotic rhythm that threatened to unbalance the moment. "I know who he is," she intoned softly, looking between us, igniting sparks of understanding and questioning, altering the very tone of the room. Her gaze shifted back to Daniel. "I'm grateful for your interest in my daughter's talent. Daniel nodded, visibly processing the interplay that swirled around us. We can discuss art later, if she's up for it. Your well-being is what matters most right now. Her grin blossomed, resolve gleaming in her eyes. I want her to thrive in her art. It's important for her to express herself, even in the face of uncertainty. Mom, I don't want to burden you, I sighed, overlaying concern with equal parts love. This isn't just about me. There's so much to manage right now, dearest, you must nurture your gifts. She said it softly, yet with conviction. You need not choose between family and ambition. They weave together like threads of the same tapestry. Often, it is in our struggles that we create the most beautiful pieces. I stared, the magnitude of her words hitting me like a wave mending the fractures that had torn me in two. In that transcendent moment, clarity unfolded. I didn't have to abandon my journey, I only needed to adjust my canvas, making room for the light of those who mattered most. Daniel stepped forward, his resolve strengthening as he diverted his attention fully to my mother. I'd like to talk about Sophia's art further, he said, this time a sincerity lacing his tone, a gentler approach emerging from the businessman I had known. But I understand the child's needs come first. We can wait. There was no immediate judgment, just a flicker of respect within his eyes that told me he was ready to see past the immediate moment, to grasp the larger picture I had almost lost sight of. I want to help you, Sophia. I hope we can work together, but only when you're ready. A small smile brightened my mother's face, a reminder of how things could change, how grace and understanding grew out of vulnerability. Then we will, I declared, heart ablaze, not just for my dreams but for the promise of all our shared moments. There's a path out there. It might twist and turn, but it leads somewhere beautiful. As we stood there, the warmth of my family and the potential for my art conjoined within the fragile walls of that hospital room, I felt a renewed sense of purpose surge within me, the echoes of fear mingling with the soft whispers of hope. Although the road ahead might be paved with uncertainties, I knew I would navigate it hand in hand with my family, embracing the beauty I had once thought lost. The last thread of daylight slipped away, replaced by the softly flickering lights of the hospital. I smiled, looking a mix of past and future in the eyes of the people I loved most. It was then, in that fragile confluence of love and resilience, I realized that perhaps beauty truly lies in unexpected places among the broken, the chaotic, and the profound depths of our hearts. Together, I murmured, seizing my mother's hand tightly, fully inviting the dawn of possibility that lay ahead. And though tomorrow remained unwritten, I knew we would fill the blank pages with stories of strength, connection, and the unrelenting belief that even amidst heartbreak and chaos, we could find the light to illuminate the way. A powerful resilience surged through me, reigniting the flame of hope for our journey ahead, and in that moment, I finally understood it was not about where we started, but where we chose to go from here.